thank you so much for joining us here today on the live stream. It's great to have you. Could you talk a little bit about the problem that Zenlytic is looking to solve and how generative AI kind of uniquely solves that?
Of course. And thanks for having me, Brian. The main thing that we are solving is self-serve in analytics. And what that means is that the majority of data questions, of data usage in a company happens through email, through Slack, through Jira. It's just humans asking other humans for things, and days or weeks later, they then get those answers. That's a friction-laden process, both for the data team who has to give those answers to the end users in the business, and for the business users trying to get those answers, trying to run campaigns, trying to find retargeting audiences, find good lookalikes, all these things that they need to do. And this is just a friction-laden process. Generative AI allows us to make that just as easy as Slacking someone, as easy as emailing someone. We call it the oldest interface for analytics. But instead of being days and weeks, it's seconds, and it knows all the definitions, all of how you calculate your metrics. It's got all the context that analyst does, but it's able to respond in seconds instead of days or weeks.
So it's like having an analyst literally sitting next to you, and you can just either Slack them or theoretically even talk to them. And
You already can talk to them.
Responsive answers and start to have a dialogue that could be really meaningful and kind of democratize, right, the insights that are available, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going for, is taking that, giving you your own AI analyst who doesn't have to sleep, works on the weekends, and is just always available.
Let's talk about kind of your vision for 5 years in the future. Talk a little bit about, what an e-commerce professional is doing as they engage with Zenlytic. What is that?
So I think the main way we fit in here is taking all those kind of ad hoc data related tasks and just turning it into something that you do on your phone. So right now, email is super easy. Everyone does email, right? You can do it on your phone. You can do it on a desktop. It just sort of follows you around. It's easy to do wherever. Data is going to be just as easy. You can ask a question. You're wondering like, hey, okay, who signed up in the past few days? Okay, can I, create me a dashboard of this, that, and the other thing that I want to be able to review for this account or, this big wholesale distributor, something like that. And you'll just be able to do all these things just by asking, the same way you would Slack someone, ask someone now, email someone now.
Reports are, reports, and people have to process those reports. They get to them, then they have to make a decision. They have to sort of maybe do some work to figure out like what kind of impact a change they may want to make can have. And as you said, it's very friction laden. Often I'm working with another person to try to get those answers or get that analysis prepared. But to be able to do that really from anywhere, at any time, day or night, weekends, etc., and to have it be a dialogue, I think is really a powerful opportunity. Talk a little bit about the creation of your company and kind of the founder story and kind of where you're at in the journey.
Yeah, so I met my co-founder doing technical grad school in AI. Right when the Transformers paper was published, the start of all this generative AI stuff. We were doing technical AI grad school at Harvard. And right after that, we started consulting, like setting up analytical systems for companies of all sizes, from Fortune 100 to tiny startups. After that, we started building the actual tool. So that let us get a lot of experience just setting up these stacks, just getting reps in that data team's shoes, in e-commerce businesses, really understanding what's going on, what are the real problems, to make sure that we're building the right solution for these people. And from there, we raised 2 rounds of funding. We raised our pre-seed from Primary Ventures in New York, and we raised our seed round this last fall from Bain Capital Ventures.
Does your system and solution kind of sit on top of, let's say, a data warehouse or other BI tools, or how does that tend to work? Or does Zenlytics ingest data and start to do, preparation and analysis to make this available?
Yep, that's a great question. So we are a fully fledged BI tool. We have all the permissioning, dashboards, all of the stuff you need to be a fully fledged BI tool. So we sit on top of the data warehouse. So we integrate with any sort of SQL speaking data warehouse, which is becoming more and more common. More people using Snowflake and BigQuery and great products like that.
How do you in Zenlytics look at some of the, potential downsides of generative AI? Maybe it's less of an issue given kind of the part of the kind of business process and the problem you're looking to solve. But how do you look at kind of questions around ethical, considerations or bias in these systems? How do you look at that?
Whenever you talk about like ethical or bias related things in LLMs, you're thinking a lot about, what kind of language does it understand and what language does it not understand, you know? The way that we solve this problem is that we actually work on top of what's called a semantic layer. That's basically just the definitions of a company's, key metrics, things like that. And these definitions can get complicated, and a lot of times they have really custom acronyms or language like specific to that company. When you encode these things in the semantic layer, you're not actually relying on the LLM's core knowledge of the world to know what, transferable like ECH is, you don't have to know these like weird acronyms that I would have no idea about. You're able to just surface that context that's defined by the customer to the LLM and then have the LLM use their own language to help pick out the right metrics to show them.
Very cool. Talk a little bit about your kind of ideal customer today. Who is it that you feel you're really best able to kind of serve and the kind of, people who you may want to talk to at this stage of your organization?
So we best serve mid to large companies. So that's basically anyone over like 50 to 100 employees. Usually at that point, they have at least one data team member who's, set up the Snowflake or the BigQuery, something like that. Mm-hmm. And usually at this point, they're struggling with just throughput of the data team. They just have, the normal ratio in businesses is anywhere from 60 to 1 to 50 to 1 team members versus data people. And, you have one data team person serving the needs of 60 people. You just can't keep up with that. And there's always a really long queue. People can't get what they need. Everyone feels like they're at the bottom of the queue. And, as management, you either have to hire a lot more headcount or just have a really overworked, low throughput data team. So we can come in and offer you, hey, just put the power in the hands of the end users where the data team can make sure that those definitions are correct, make sure that everything's calculating right. And once they do, all the end users can just go and ask whatever questions they want for as long as they want to an analyst who doesn't get tired, doesn't have to go home, and doesn't eat. So it really makes the process a lot easier for the end business users and takes pressure off the data team. So that's what we're going for, is those mid to larger companies with data warehouses.
That makes sense. And across all different kinds of verticals?
All verticals, yep. So we are broad BI tool. So we have a ton of e-commerce companies. That's sort of where we started in our niche. So we have a ton of e-commerce companies, and they're getting a lot of value out of it. But we also work broadly across other verticals as well.
Very cool. Well, as we wrap up, Paul, where do you see Zenlytic in 5 years?
So in 5 years, we'll be one of the major players in the BI space. And right now, the tool is dramatically easier to use, but a very average amount of work to set up. So I think what happens in 5 years is we are not only the easiest tool, to use at the end of the day, but we're also the easiest tool to set up. Whereas right now, you've got to connect to your data warehouse and define all these different metrics, and you've got to do that in whatever BI tool you choose. And it's really a pain. It takes a long time. There's a lot of features that we're building right now with generative AI to make the actual setup and configuration process something that happens in minutes, not days. So that's something I'm super excited about, because having been someone who has configured a lot of BI tools in my life, it is painful no matter what tool you're working with. So that is an area where I think that things are going to change dramatically. It's going to be really easy to set these things up, and the actual end interface is going to be really easy.
Very cool. Well, Paul, thanks again so much for joining us here today. It was a pleasure.
Great. Thanks for having me, Brian.